They say that life is a never-ending question, and we're always searching for the answers. I don't know who said that, but they're kind of right, because there's still a lot of things we don't know about the North American League. Identities, consistency, and playstyles are all in flux, so join us on this 4th day of our expedition into the unknown. This is March 22nd, 2024. Welcome to Day 4 of the 2024 North American League. I'm Caliber Jacob Anderson. He is America's caster extraordinaire, Jonah Jays Willinger, and 17-time LAN player, Davide Foxe Bucci. Hi, boys. Are we sufficiently recovered from yesterday or not?
I'd say so. That was a really poetic introduction. I feel like that's...
Oh, you
really
like that?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. It was very nice.
This guy's still recovering from the Red Bulls that he had last night.
I want to say, how many you drained a bunch of them yesterday?
I was up on 3. I mean, the games were so exciting. I had to just,
We finally had 2 overtime games that we couldn't sprint through those, so we had to sit down, analyze literally every little thing that happened yesterday. That was a lot of fun. I'm hopeful that today is more of the same, Jonah.
Yeah, this should be good stuff. I mean, we've got a potentially good schedule on our hands today, and we get to see Los twice, and we only have seen them once. Kind of like Beast Coast yesterday, right? We get a Los team that we're still trying to look to understand a bit more, but they have a tough day. I think we could just put it like that. I don't know if I'd want this kind of day if I'm Los. Dark Zero, Sonics,
it's a big
back-to-back.
task. It's a big task, especially with Dark Zero being 0-2 currently. They really want to get that first win under their belt, so it being Los, Dark Zero's licking their lips, but also Sonics having 2 pretty big games too. One of them's going to be Los, but I'm excited to watch them play against SSG.
Obviously, the very last game of the day is the reschedule from day 1, so that game was meant to be the game where Los had their debut in the North American League, but it needed to get pushed back to today. Game 2, I like, because it's Sonic's first game and it's Space Station, so that one should be pretty good. But then we get to Game 4 later on. That's 2 currently winless squads. So once we get to Beast Coast and Wildcard, you really don't want to lose that game if you're either of them.
And you hate to be like, oh, it's a bottom-of-the-barrel fight, but either team has yet to prove themselves here. Both rebuilds. We're trying to see what they're capable of.
Yeah, so let's jump right into Game 1, and then we'll just keep on descending down to their level at some point as the day progresses. First game is Luminosity versus M80. These are 2 teams that had similar rebuilds in the amount of players that they brought onto the roster. Both have had slightly different returns, but they both had big wins in their games from yesterday. LG had that really good win over Beast Coast and stopped their debut in its tracks. M80 just barely got past Sonics on Oregon 8-6 in overtime. So this matchup, on the face of it, should be a pretty exciting one.
Exciting indeed, and we use the term maybe super team for a team like M80, but I stand on the hill that I wouldn't call them a super team.
Okay.
I think this is
You're just trying
time.
not to curse them is all you're trying to
Well,
do.
no, I wouldn't say it's a super team, because when you look at the roster, a lot of people would see maybe players like Noodle, Kino, and Cameraman as players that just haven't necessarily found their home yet. And I think this is the first time where all of the players on M80 are all doing amazing in their own respectable roles.
Well, of these 2 teams, it feels like Luminosity has been the slightly shakier one. The one positive, and that we took away yesterday, is that they made some pretty significant improvements from their Week 1 to their Week 2 performance, right? We saw some concrete changes, and that resulted in a win.
Let's talk about LG a little bit more in depth, because I think for most people, we're still trying to figure out what the new identity for this team is. We don't know quite yet. As we suss out the way that they play, we'll have a better understanding, but they've only played 1 map so far through this stage, and we're hoping that we see another one come out, but they did knock off Beast Coast in a pretty convincing way just yesterday. The entries were good. That second half was really solid. There's not a lot that we can knock for LG based on how they played yesterday.
Well, I like that you bring up the entries, because that is one thing that has been consistent between Game 1 and Game 2. Even though they lost to SSG, still positive in the entry game. 7-3 overall, 7-4 against Beast Coast. So they still had that good element of Siege going for them that, yes, it got off to a shaky start and they didn't take the win, but that is one thing that we don't need to see an active improvement on. They just need to keep that up.
And it was shaky, but to me, it gives me a lot of faith in this team, and it shows almost like a visionary pipeline with the corrections of mistakes throughout week to week. It gives me a lot of hope looking at them that they'll be able to not only just correct mistakes, but actually get a lot of good karma on their side and start winning against teams that you wouldn't expect them to necessarily win against.
For a new team, which LG for the most part is, Is it a good thing when you see them taking a lot of that early game control and their entry stat is as good as it seems right here? Or would you prefer them to be better in the late game because that's where the executes matter? For a new team, what do you look at the most?
For a new team, getting your foot in the door is the hardest thing. Being able to get these opening kills, get inside the map, maintain that control. The late game is obviously a battle that even concurrent teams that go to these events still struggle with, you know, maintaining an execute. It's so many things that you have to keep part of. But just getting those entries down is the first step to success, and that's why I'm saying it looks like they've paved the road to success so far. We just have to see them walk down it.
Well, it certainly looks like they're getting off on the right foot, and before we even started this stage, we sat down with Eddie for a couple minutes to figure out what this new LG roster was going to look like and what their own expectations were.
Hey, I'm Eddie from Luminosity. I feel really good going into this stage. I think I have more of an aggressive playstyle, but I've been put on support. But I think that'll help the team out because I think now you really need a support player who could shoot back. I think we have a really high chance of making the major, and that's what we all want. We have a lot more chemistry as a team together. 5 people we have right now is like people that we're used to playing with a lot in and out of Siege, so I think that'll help with like the chemistry and stuff. We're kind of like a new team. We have like 3 new players, so we have to just get used to each other a little more, just practice with each other more. We added Kickstro and Wi-Fi, who are going to be new to Pro League, which they come from Carnico, and we got Hat from Beast Coast. I think they're adjusting really good. I think the playstyle that they offer us is what we want, and if it shows out on game day, then I think we'll do pretty good. My teammates are my friends. You know, you go into scrims every day, and you know, you're not scrimming with like random people, you're scrimming with your friends, so it just makes it more fun.
Definitely doesn't seem like a problem on the face of it when you're playing with your friends in scrims and in the lobby. That's what Eddie is hoping to capitalize on with this LG team. There are examples of teams that are really tight in and out of the server working out at least decently well in some contexts, and I think they're hoping that they can capitalize on a pretty similar thing in this case, Fox.
They are. There's not many friendship teams. That's the word that a lot of other pros will use. There's not many friendship teams that have found success, but so far Luminosity is one where there is a lot of good potential talent, especially when you look at some of the players that are coming out of the E2 scene, especially when you're looking at a player like Wi-Fi. He is such a communicative like IGL for the team, and he's been there, that backbone, being able to give a little bit more guidance to the rest of the team, and just he feels very comfortable when he's doing that, and that's not something you see out of a rookie coming out at such a low level.
And I like that we're talking about kind of the different duos or trios that are emerging on this team. Obviously, coming into the stage, we talked about Eddie, Silent, and Kickstro, or Julian, these 3 that have been together for quite some time. You throw Wi-Fi into the mix, who Kickstro obviously has some experience with, playing on Karn & Co. over the course of E1 and E2. And then Hat, you mentioned like this leadership. You mentioned someone with a bit more experience, and Hat is that for this team.
Yeah, and these 3 players, Wi-Fi, Silent, and Hat, I mean, it just goes to show the improvements that they made from their game against SSG. They were able to recognize the late game finishing problem where they weren't able to do the executes like you asked about. They were getting their foot in their door, but they couldn't finish through. And in their game against Beast Coast, they recognized that, and they were able to maintain an amazing level of aggression of just getting in, getting the picks, and following through.
It also sounds like that meeting they had as soon as they lost the space station, when they came together and tried to figure out what those problems were. Yes, we went to the same map immediately afterwards so they could fix some of the more exacting mistakes, but I think it goes to show there's a lot of maturity when you understand the precise issues that you made in your very first game and can immediately correct those to get your first win of the stage.
It also gives an immense level of confidence because the entries were great, they were still good, but the improvements were so much better, and it elevated their level of game to a whole another level, and it showed in that match against Beast Coast.
I love that we saw concrete changes that were pretty obvious on the forefront. In operator selection, in site setup, you were right, that paid off.
Everything for LG looks pretty good, but can they beat M80? Because these guys feel like it's a train that's left the station. Everything for this team is going well so far, even if an overtime game against the Sonics, you'd love to try to beat them in regulation. You want the full 3 points. Everyone isn't like all over the place doing their own thing. Everyone's beginning to tighten up a little bit more on this squad. When they played against the Sonics yesterday, 8-6, they had a 4-1 lead, then they let it slip to 4-5. But Fox, they came back and forced overtime and still closed it out late.
They closed it out, and only with more time, this team is going to look more dangerous, especially as they get Cameraman more acclimated into their system. And we talked about it last week, that it isn't necessarily all about the slaying. The slaying was never an issue in any prior team of the M80, but they never necessarily had two support players that they could really bounce behind. It was always one or the other, and a lot of the times, the shoulders, it was on Kino's shoulders to fill in that void, but now they have Cameraman with him too.
Well, I love that you bring up Kino because there are so many scary players on this team. So many people we could single out and say this is the one to highlight. They're going to be the difference maker. For me, Kino is the key, or at least he has been over these first 2 play days. Of course, we saw some shenanigans on the Blitz, and he wasn't able to pull off an insane clutch here in round number 1.
God, we wish.
But he did have some good moments, right? He really has emerged as a jack of all trades for this roster. At least that's one way to put it. A big difference maker that can succeed in a variety of different spots. He's getting kills. He's fragging out. In fact, getting as many kills as someone like Spoit, who we did talk a lot about yesterday, both 23 kills to their name at this point, but he also has 4 plants. He's getting that diffuser down, separating himself on the supportive side of things too.
I really think taking that step back to be a coach for M80 during Invite gave him kind of a third eye, be able to see everything from a third perspective and know where he needs to position himself when he comes back into the roster. He knows exactly what he needs to do and what gaps to fill. And since getting on Cameraman, it gives Kino a lot of flexibility to play these wacky ops that we love seeing him play, especially we saw him play on the Blitz yesterday.
Yeah.
And it gives him the ability to not only get those plans down, get his objectives down, but right now in the meta, that is a role where once you get your job done, you can now turn into the Slayer and go for those kills. And yesterday, it wasn't just Spoit on the leaderboard, it was Kino at the top 2.
Yep, 4th highest rated player in the league, and it feels like his second stint on M80 as a player looks like it's going a lot better than the first one did. Again, it's different because M80, we know, domestically, they're usually fine. Internationally is where everything needs to come to a head. Map bans are coming up here, and we are not seeing Club again. That's an M80 ban. Luminosity are not going to be able to fall back on the same map 3 times in a row. So instead, it's Skyscraper for LG and M80. Gentlemen, what do we think?
It's a very close quarters map. I think it's going to be really back and forth. Even though LG has that street paved, I don't think they can be too mad if things don't go their way. I think M80's still very more experienced when it comes to a map like Skyscraper.
Sure.
A smaller map, I'd say a more aggressive team like M80 is usually going to be more favored on it.
The one thing I'd be wary of is that M80, on both of their Oregon attacks on the basement, when things didn't go well, they brought the Blitz. It was Kino, as I mentioned, trying to get in there with the Blitz and do something a bit more creative. The innovation yesterday is something we talked about, several teams doing. You bringing out the Deimos, using the shield rework, trying to take advantage of the new patch, the new meta that we're in. The Blitz did not work out for them. Both times they tried it. You mentioned this is a close quarters map, Fox. I want to see them maybe avoid that if they can, given what we saw on Oregon and the trouble they had executing that strategy.
First time we're seeing Skyscraper played in this season of the NAL. I can't really say I'm surprised that we're seeing M80 at least try it out because it feels like the skill sets of this team can lend into almost any map pretty well, but I just want to see him play the full boat. I want to see Luminosity play something they haven't played yet. I want to see M80 showcase that they have a lot of maps in their pool because the whole goal behind this is if one of these teams were to go to Manchester, the best way for an NA team to have a good shot at winning is to prove you can basically play anything and play it well. So I love that we're seeing even more maps come into the pool here.
Yeah, a deeper map pool is always going to be better, and Luminosity going to a map like this shows that they're comfortable on it. I'm really happy that they're able to, I guess, flex a little bit of that experience, but again, I wouldn't have necessarily the highest hopes just because M80 has been looking that much step better, in my opinion.
Well, you also mentioned like the imports and this idea of other players coming into the region, right? That's also a fun little extra box to check before going to Manchester. You just to try out your own play against some of these other styles and see how you stack up.
Especially for Citizen and Noodle trying to get to their home country and play a major, even though they're playing currently in a different region. So that's what those guys are fighting for. Fox, you mentioned you don't really know if LG can get over the hump here, so it's sticking with M80 on this game?
I'm going to stick with M80. I just don't think LG can be upset. They obviously have some things figured out, but I think it just needs a little bit more cooking in the kitchen to get done. Also,
Sure.
You were hooing Kino yesterday, so I feel like he's really bringing the fire today.
Lovingly.
You were saying
I didn't
who?
mean anything by it. Come on. Give me a break. He added me on Twitter about it. I thought it was
No,
funny.
I know. I'm
So
going to stick with M80.
for the NAL Predictions Championship, obviously Laxing and Jesse both aren't here. You see Jesse's prediction. He's gone with M80. Jonah, you are the predictions representative for our boy Gabe Miralez back home. What has he picked?
I DM'd him on Twitter again. I said, listen, the map is Skyscraper. What do you got for me? Very fast response. He said, OXG.
Wait, what?
And I said, wait, no.
What?
I'm sorry, but that's not what we
Gabe.
got here. He ended up going with M80. I think
There
we
we
do
go,
know where
okay.
his heart truly lies, though. His head and his heart, it'll be OXG always.
Good grief. All right, so there were a couple instances where everybody picked the same team for predictions yesterday. Didn't quite pan out the way they were hoping for. Is the same going to happen here, or will everybody on the desk be right? Day 4 of the North American League starts right now.
I could say this, at least to me personally, Sam, I don't know about you, I predicted M80. I think it's a pretty safe bet, but honestly, I enjoyed what I saw from LG yesterday. I just don't know if it'll be enough on Skyscraper.
Yeah, you know, I could be in agreement with that, Carter, especially looking at how Skyscraper's kind of trended in recent history. It feels like it's kind of M80's map to lose. They looked really, really good yesterday, able to shut down Adam, especially, who was going nuts in that match up against the Sonics. I'm excited to see what Luminosity can produce against a team of this caliber, and it's kind of crazy that we're talking about that so early on in M80's new iteration, but yet here we are. So, see what M80 are capable of as they're bringing us to Japan.
And this is a game that I think will absolutely be won on the defenses. A lot of the attacks in general inside of the NAL so far have had a lot of problems for any team. LG, M80, DZ, SQ. A lot of teams have had struggles attacking just in the league, being in a bit of a rebuild period right now, with most teams either completely revamping their roster or just making a couple changes. I thought LG were surprisingly well coordinated on a lot of their executes yesterday, but one thing they really struggled with was dealing with sort of the problems that come from a structured roam. How do you clear a castle setup and a zombie setup that's holding control off the site? That's where they started running into issues. And I was about to say, this is a map where that could really prove to be a problem, but LG have taken out the Azami completely. And I think given what we saw in their game yesterday, what the weak points were on those clubhouse attacks, I really like that ban, even if it's just banning an Azami and might have happened anyway.
Yeah, either way, if you see somebody use an effective operator even more effectively, you might as well remove it from play and make sure that that can't be inside their toolkit. So, nice little adaptation there, even if it was something that was going to be more mainline from the beginning, like you said. Few of those new Blast player cards coming in. That is very, very clean. I really, really like this thing. I don't know if you ended up seeing that G36C skin either, but man, very, very nice little setup for your operators. But for Luminosity, we'll have a couple of not only those player cards, but a couple of soft destruction ops as well. So we're actually going to have 3 of them. I didn't see the Zofia there initially, but Silent Kicks and Hat all feeling it for the moment.
I was about to say, like, obviously the Blast G36 skin is fantastic, channeling the Viking, Norse spirit. But if R4C ACOG gets back and the M762 isn't unusable anymore, I don't blame maybe Hat or Silent or whatever for maybe not necessarily running it. But already, we are 1 round in, and Sam, we are not on Tea and Karaoke, we're not on Exhibition and Office. The first site being defended by M80 is Bedroom, which is generally what we refer to as talent, as one of the worst sites in the game, at least in our minds.
It's very true. I was hoping you would stall for like 2 seconds longer so I could get this map stat up. Oh, wait, we're there. Hold on. Here we are. Master Bathroom at SI, actually a 73% defensive win rate. So I have a question. What do we know? That's the real thing.
Let me guess. It was played approximately like 3 times.
It was played 11 times. Thank you very much.
A best of 3 tournament, whatever.
So maybe it has a little bit more merit.
Maybe.
But I will at least say this. It's not great. And it's very difficult to try and play out. Now, I like M80's idea around this. They kind of got a lot going on, an extended roam over here, but not a lot of actual utility behind it, Carter. They're just trying to show face, delay some time, maybe, make Luminosity think about clearing this area, eat up some of that clock.
I do think one thing LG did well yesterday was maybe a structured roam was difficult, but finding these isolated players was something they actually were able to do decently well. So if Noodle is a bit too far extended and maybe doesn't fall back quick enough or doesn't have the support necessary, that is actually an occasion where Luminosity could find the opening pick, and as the desk brought up, 7-3 against SSG, 7-4 on the opening duels against both the teams Luminosity played, SSG and Beast Coast so far. So finding these entry engagements, or at least having the success they've had, is a necessity right now for LG if they want a chance at getting even a couple rounds on their Skyscraper attack. And well, Noodle's been down, and it seems they might very well be able to do it.
Honestly, in good timing here. Got that pickup onto Noodle, but Citizen's going to trade back onto Hat via Nitro Cell. Express shipping. Pix will begin opening up the floor. A lot of Bs here, but it's not going to really do too much for him on this second level. You'll have quite a bit more in that skeleton key, but the boogie drones will assist with this job as well. Luminosity getting a little bit lower on drone count now too, so won't be as effective on trying to use those extra lives to try and use a little bit of info into their favor. But it's going to be Citizen that strikes next, as he'll be able to take down Silent. Just solid positioning as they kind of set themselves up directly adjacent to the site here, Carter, just to make sure that things won't go awry if somebody tries to rush in.
And they've anticipated how much vert is achievable for Luminosity, how much control and angles they can have at their disposal.
That's this entire site, right?
I mean yeah. So you spill out into delivery, you spill out into the main lobby. So once the attack actually floods in, you can shoot them from the angles you yourself have created from the horizontal. I mean, and look at all these head holes and rotate holes made inside of the soft wall, inside a bathroom. That's exactly what M80 want to do. Force LG to flood in, and then once they do, use the holes they made all the way at the beginning of the round to finish things off. And with the triple kill from Citizen, they make it look easy. We might still call Master Bedroom Office a bad sight, but with that being the 12th play, I suppose, if you count SI in the NAL, still remains a defensive stronghold.
There you go. And I think a great display of how you have to get it done on that side. That's really the only way, right, is trying to play things directly adjacent, maybe try and send somebody up top like we saw there with Citizen, who could have played that verticality back in if things did end up standing at a stalemate. They're a little longer at the tail end of round one, but really need that, so ended up traversing down the house stairs instead. Either way, very well done for M80 as they've picked up our very first round here on the Skyscraper. Probably going to go back to more traditional means once we get down the line, but really like what we saw there, especially with their respect of what Luminosity could do with the map control that they gathered. You know, you kind of wish that LG worked their way back into using that verticality there, Carter, because they did have a little bit of space that they could have tried to slip through, maybe over towards that bathroom side, potentially get a plant inside, maybe like the jacuzzi, bathtub, or whatever, while you try and hold those vertical angles. But you know, beggars can't be choosers. They saw the pressure, they saw the angles they could have worked on, and tried to work those in. Just really couldn't get much on the swing.
And also, it really comes down to the first two picks that M80 were able to get. Of course, the C4 kind of on the way out as they were vacating the bomb site, and LG were getting vertical control. They're able to neutralize that opening pick that Hat got by taking down Noodle. But then, most importantly, Citizen making it that 4v3 with that kill inside of delivery. Because now at that point, if you do want to go for a plant in bathroom, or you do want to go for a plant in bedroom, M80 just have to flood in and peek the holes they made at the beginning, and they're able to trade it down. Whereas in a 4v4, maybe it's a bit more palatable of an option, and maybe instead LG are able to bait the planner, get a 4v3 for their own favor, and then end up taking the first round on their attacking side. But either way, M80 are able to do it, and that means that the sites they have up after this are Tea and Karaoke, Exhibition and Office, Barbecue. The three mainline sites on this map are all options for M80, so it's entirely possible that we could see all four bomb sites played before the half is even close to done.
Yeah, and there's also a reality where we see all of those going M80's way as well. I mean, the rest of the list of sites are all, technically speaking, easier to defend. I think that this is just, you know, that ugly duckling, that one you don't really see every once in a while, that will just show up and kind of cause bad news for the offense, as they're just not really used to having to attack it. And I think that's what we see here for LG, just caught a little bit off guard with the exact strategy that was implemented from M80, as just no real sense of real direction there at the tail end. Ended up really catching them there. But now going into round two, I'm really feeling a Tea and Karaoke defense. It feels like the main line is coming for us, right?
To be fair, I do remember casting an M80 game. I think it was actually an NAL game on Theme Park last stage, and their site rotation on Theme Park defense was lab storage, initiation, bunk daycare, throne. Like literally the exact opposite of what most teams would do if they had the option or had the ability to play all four sites, assuming, you know, if they were ranking them. So this has been an org, obviously very different team, but this has been an org where there have been some funky site selections. So it's possible that maybe we see Barbecue next and they're just completely going bottom up instead of top down. But I would assume it'd have to be Tea and Karaoke after this. We did have a player DC, by the way. That's why we're having the tech pause, but should be back in soon, and we will see if they are going to that karaoke and T defense. And if they do, I honestly think that we might see a similar style. Not necessarily for the entire bomb site, but Sam, when you're defending T and karaoke, we'll see teams hold on to like T itself, maybe have a mute playing there, or hard breach denial on that T wall. But when it comes to the other big areas, specifically Geisha and karaoke, a lot of times, especially by the late round, teams have vacated both of those positions and are holding angles, looking into those rooms, while only really holding on to T itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you might see some later destruction into the round based off of things that are happening, you know, midway through, too. Maybe there's an adjustment that happens where things are more working in from that black stairs / balcony angle, and you can kind of hold on to Geisha longer. Maybe create some more soft destruction for the main hallway, things along those lines. The world's kind of your oyster in this site, and that's what a lot of defenses like, especially with how difficult it is to try and work your way through kind of that main hall area that we always end up talking about, right? You know, Dragon as well as you know, Drum and things along those lines. That whole area is just always going to be a defensive stronghold, some place that you're going to have kind of a give and take, whether it's going to be a trade in kills or trade in utility. There's more than likely going to be something that goes down on that battleground. So we'll have to see what Luminosity wants to try and bring on those respective fronts. Maybe it's something real quick too. You know, we could always see something like a Gara hook flying in through karaoke. That's definitely not out of the cards.
And if it's going to be something quick, or at least something different than just like a standard exhibition office full clear, it would have to be something like an Amaru or a Blitz, like the desk mentioned, but obviously it can't be that Monty. LG deciding to ban the Montagne out early on in the ban phase, or as their only attacking ban. But Monty on this map is usually known for an attack on karaoke and T, in which you send the Monty on top black stairs. He pressures anybody playing there. Then you have somebody come up from the staircase, take control there, then aim for a plant directly on the karaoke wall. It doesn't really have a lot of map control involved, but that's why you have the Monty. It creates a lot of pressure on a very small area and is able to break through and then eventually get the diffuser down if you're able to do so successfully. But we are struggling to get the player back in, unfortunately, so we are going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. It would be quick. We have made it back in safely. Spoit, our boy, is back in the lobby. And honestly, that is good. Because if I had to maybe cast this game in a 4v5 and I wasn't able to see Spoit run R4C ACOG on the attacking half, I don't know what I'd be able to do, Sam. It would not be a good day if I don't get to see that man with a drone in front of him, one of the most iconic weapons in the game.
I'd have had to get you in there.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, even ignoring all the, you know, listen, obviously, I'm not comparing us directly, but I'd have an impact of some kind. I doubt, you know, I doubt there'd be politics. There'd be a whole thing, you know. Best
Yeah,
vehicle.
like how long can they keep you on the roster before the other teams want to scoop you up? That'd be the real.
Exactly. I mean, it'd be the first substitute player to literally have teams engage in like gladiatorial combat to get him on the roster.
Oh man, what could be? What could be, Carter? But you know, we live in the realm where you're a caster, and instead we're gonna be here casting LG and M80 as we get back into things. And so far so good, especially for M80 and what they've been able to accomplish so far. A master defense in the very first round, something you don't really see all too often, but continues to find success. M80 are immediately going to shift these sights upstairs and defend office instead.
And with the lineup they're running, it seems to be, if it is a roam of any kind, an extremely loose one. We have Citizen on that Legion all the way across the map, but the rest of the utilities really suited for a full anchor setup. You have the Zodos and the Electroclaws for hard breach denial, and I was about to mention the Black Mirrors and Noodle on the Warden, but first pick again, going the way of Luminosity. Citizen, that solo roamer I mentioned, goes for a hop out, unceremoniously dispatched by Eddie, just looking down in the rappel, and without any cost to themselves, LG have an opening pick.
Well, we've seen this one before. M80 have been able to burrow out of this time and time again, though. So one beauty of having so many shooters on your roster. Don't have to worry too much, even if you do lose somebody as talented as Citizen. Still have that backbone, that backline to try and assist. Luminosity slowing things down just a tad bit after that first pick. Really like the respect that they're giving over, using these drones to their fullest effect. Wi-Fi, top scorer so far for Luminosity. Unable to get too much with that peak, but just holding things down for Terrace, making sure M80 aren't able to overswing and try and get ahead of this clear. So far, so good for both squads, respectively. Shot rings out from Kixera as he'll take down Kiki. It's going to be a 5 versus 3 now. This, hopefully, fingers crossed. Are you locked up? Oh, we're back in. Oh, amazing. All right, awesome.
I was about to say,
Things are a little frozen there for just a split second, but they weren't frozen for these guys. Luminosity still ahead by 2. Make it, actually 3 now. Back into this with a 3 versus 1.
somehow making their way back. Spoit on the mirror window could easily get one more, and indeed he will. 3K for Spoit back in the lobby, but through the wall. Hat with the final kill for LG. Able to get their first attacking round, and man, what a bounce back from round 1.
Yeah, 100%. I like how they established ground over on the Geisha T side, right? They get that first pick, and then they don't overplay things. They don't get too aggressive over towards Dragon, over towards Terrace. Instead, they kind of establish a line of sight, something to make it to where M80 can't get too aggressive from that area that they've already taken over. That's why we have Wi-Fi over on the Terrace double, just holding things down while they try and work those drones, try and understand what M80's retaliation is going to be. And they're able to really not only handle that, but use that to its fullest advantage. Nice little peek there by Kix over on the far side. Ends up garnering them not only an extra kill, but some extra ground on top of that. Luminosity able to get their first round off the back of that effort.
And ultimately, if this is going to be a game of defensive halves and just see who can net more or counter a 5-1 half with one of their own, even if the attacks aren't convincing, even if they're few and far between, if LG can just pull off one more, that might be enough for the overall game. Of course, depending on how M80's attacking side is, could be incredibly convincing or could be incredibly weak. But for LG, even getting around like that, where a lot of it came down just to finding gunfights being given by M80 or openings being given to LG in the case of Citizen jumping out, you're not going to complain too much. In a best of one, you just need a couple of those to make the difference.
Oh, into round 3. Tied 1-1. Luminosity on the more traditional sites able to hit their mark. I feel pretty positive about that. You're not asking for too much when it comes to the offensive perspective from Skyscraper. 2 rounds at the end of the day will be justice. They are able to at least get that going for them. Drones in. Extension here. This isn't obviously the real meat and potatoes of what's going on. This is just going to be M80 trying to hold Luminosity back on their clear. Taking this time, worth their while as well. Spoit's able to take down Hat, our recent rookie, now veteran of the NAL. He's going to continue to try and hold things down over here inside of office.
Honestly, at this point, I don't think that's a bad move. Even if you die as the Warden, you're not giving up much utility. As we know as well, LG are running some flashes, but the more they expend on the roam clear to clear out Spoit, he's basically paying for his own impact. And even then, there's one player on the cutoff Wi-Fi, but the players actively trying to take down Spoit by taking gunfights with him are dropping like flies to that MPX. Citizen has even joined inside of Dragon, the Shrine area, just to make sure that he has some support. Because M80 are making the right call. They know if they hold on to this map, but don't give too much in turn, this is at this point an unlosable advantage for M80. Spoit even on 1 HP in ace territory as he cuts the head off. Eddie kicks Zera, spotted outside of the exhibition window as well. Just one final peek, just a couple more shots from Spoit's MPX. Be the difference maker for another ace. He's spotted. Buck knows that the Warden is going to peek. Instead, he'll back off and not make it back in the building. But again, the round is won. They know the diffuser's dropped outside, and Kino with the easy cleanup. They match LG's easy victory on exhibition with, well, a round that began and ended the exact same spot.
Yeah, you make a strategy around Spoit off on his own little front in office, and I think the return on investment was worth it. I'll just put that out there, Carter.
I would agree.
This is great for your portfolio.
Nobody's complaining. Like, oh, I put a Warden in office and he got 4 kills. Ugh.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many bombs as they
That's so
can.
confident at the tail end of that. He's like, I'm just going to run outside. You know, there's really nothing that Cakes is going to be able to do in a scenario like this that brings him back into it. So might as well risk it for the biscuit. And I mean, just what a play. Not too much to happen there for M80. I will say this. I do really appreciate them having that line shift at the tail end of the round just to make sure that things were guaranteed, right? They had enough bodies in the area where if somebody did go down past Spoit, there was somebody that was going to make that tradable. So just making sure that at least they're keeping the fundamentals down even when they're trying to have some
10
fun.
seconds to go. Attackers have
And
located bombs.
interestingly enough, we don't see barbecue at all. Instead, we will go back to office bedroom. So it seems we won't see a 4-site rotation like we might have thought. Seems M80 love the 2 primary bomb sites, obviously, but bedroom and bathroom. That is what they want. Of course, LG were able to find that opening pick previously here that was very quickly traded out. And M80's retake strategy, or at least preventing LG from getting the bomb down via angles they made, was incredibly successful. And based on the soft lineup, doesn't seem they're changing things a whole lot.
With Thatcher coming in so that we don't see all the time anymore. Just to try and guarantee Hat's utility, but also get rid of other electronics. Aggressive front being shown from LG. Silent moves his way forward. Getting rid of something. He's going to sprint across the electrified hatch. Everybody and their brother knows that Silent is upstairs right now after he gets zapped like 4 times on that hatch. He is going to hop up top, though. Make sure he doesn't get nitro celled as easily from down low. And doesn't have a couple of those to worry about at the end of the day. Be the first minute expended for LG, and at least they've gathered control of the top floor.
This is why I've been impressed by this team, though. I mean, look at that read. They've realized how heavily this go around, as there are some adjustments. It's still not an anchor hold from M80, but there's heavy investment on this roam, and LG quickly realized that within 30 seconds, they enter the top floor to get this vertical control, and now, of course, there is still the same threat. There are still those players off-site who could either A, flank, or B, use any holes made on the bomb site to stop the flood in for LG. But LG are now aware of that, and with operators like Ying in control on the bathroom window, you can see LG starting to set up for that execute. And as the EMP goes in, imagine we'll see the Yings from Kick Zera a little bit after. Frost shot. He's made his way in, recovered the diffuser as well, but this is not the bomb site, my friends. You've got to make your way a little deeper in, so they'll use the smoke grenades to block off one hole. There is still the doorway bottom house, so Eddie has to cover this. The Evil Eye shocking the Ying, but it's shot. Kix is able to get the diffuser off now, so long as the coverage is still solid for LG. Hat's able to find one. They drop the opening pick on Wi-Fi, but they get the trade and get the diffuser on the floor. No lead garnered for M80, though they finally do get it, as Citizen's retake of the top floor is successful. So any verticality, either previously made or on the fly, will now be in the favor of the defense. And he knows somebody can drop that hatch. That's the 1 kill he gets. He's got to get 2 more in the 1v3. Might be spotted on that bulletproof. Certainly spots the Maestro. Cameraman fires first. M80 and the defuse move up 3-1.
They have a incredible retake strategy for that site. That is not something that is just randomly happening, especially when it comes to the top side of that. Love that strategy coming in from Spoit. Even though he doesn't get anything with that hats drop, just having everything happen in unison, making sure that LG are kind of overloaded, especially for the man count that they have in that scenario, making things really difficult. I do like that we saw LG, kind of consider what they wanted when it came to that strategy. They kind of, search things out initially inside of the prep phase, discover that M80 is going back, make that line shift, and I'd say apply a pretty solid strategy. The only thing that really goes awry is the body count. M80 able to get a lot of really solid picks and really run amok of what LG's post-plant strategy was supposed to be. It's not just supposed to be simply Ying trapped in, behind a bomb chassis, as well as somebody getting stuck inside of the closet. There's definitely supposed to be some top floor pressure there. And just unfortunate that M80 was able to bowl that over and really give them an issue.
It's always the issue you're going to have when you're on a 5v5 or a 4v4, right? Is they've made their way onto the bomb side. They're looking good, but there are still those roamers. And M80 are clearly aware that the site is a little exposed, and that a very logical call for a team to make is, hey, top floor is clear. In fact, the bomb side is relatively clear. We should be able to quickly take control. And they likely have protocols established that, all right, when we're going for this retake, there's probably going to be a guy top house on the breach. Seeing if we rotate through Dragon, let's try to 2v1 that guy. Or there's somebody outside of Terrace doing the same thing, let's try to 2v1 that guy. You have 3 players on the roam who can stack up on any of those players on cutoffs and still trade that man count down, so long as the site players are able to maybe stall time or get a pick in their own right. So overall, I really like that strategy from M80. As you said, I think it's a very solid retake strat for a bomb site we don't see all that often, and they'll also make me eat my words. All 4 bomb sites will in fact be played as they move downstairs to barbecue for round 5.
Yeah, M80 are beating all the odds. Not only, when it came back to having like back in the roster, everyone was like, oh, I mean, he's been off for a little while. Is he gonna, what's he gonna look like? Is he gonna have a positive start, or things gonna go back to what we saw at the tail end of his previous run with M80? And no, everything's been fantastic so far. Also, a little stat tidbit for you too. One of the only 2 shield mains by at least primary op choice that exists right now in the NAL. It's him and Spirits. I know you're so very shocked, Kicks. Almost able to take out Spoid, but you could say the same in kind. He is going to get healed up a bit from that adrenal surge. But M80, as you said, going to go for the full site rotation, as we are going to get barbecue. That's going to mean LG have to try and find a way to take control of this top floor.
You can see they'll go for it immediately. The Maverick onto the Geisha wall. It is electrified, of course, so they want to open it. It will have to be with a full Mav trick, and, well, there's no follow-up, or there's no secondary hard breach of any kind. Get an extra primary or a secondary breach charges, so it has to be that Maverick. Little run out from the Solus. All it does is scare LG. Damage dealt to Kick Zera, still the damage dealt early on by that engagement with Spoit, who has not received the same health advantage in kind. In fact, 2 players in M80, both on very low HP, and if Noodle continues to get aggressive and he takes some damage too, this might bode very well for LG's Execute or Flood if they have to deal with a lot of weakened M80 defenders.
Now, so far, the take's been problematic. There's been obstacles that Luminosity didn't exactly calculate for. Obviously, the positioning, not so much. They knew somebody'd more than likely play inside of Geisha. Just how long it's taken to clear them out, how long M80's been able to stand on this top floor, and give LG a problem. Then they're trying to figure out a way to work themselves around, especially since, the nade change. Things have gotten a lot more difficult, more precarious with situations like this. To get a body in there, potentially expose yourself to some angles that M80 could have worked up other ways. Some verticality towards kitchen windows, things like that. Don't exactly have the time to calculate for in the moment. Now, Luminosity down to the last minute here. And getting exposed when it comes to the game plan right now. Silent trying to work his way forward. You can see he's asking for a little bit of assistance here. Might be Eddie in kind as well. Trying to make sure they can try and work their way in for this kitchen take. The cameraman's going to take one down. They know somebody's trying to occupy the space upstairs. Eddie's going to try and span the angle, and he does get in. He's going to have the case here. All going to be down to him, but there's so much verticality. There's no way that they don't try and stop him. So many bodies for M80 to donate to this issue, too.
So many bodies, so many angles, and one more ends up giving away Eddie's position. Kino on the top ropes for the TCSG, a run out from the cameraman. Might give his life, but it's impactless at this point. That was a 1v5 for Kick Zera just to try to pad his stats in. M80 might not be doing a full anchor or even some of the traditional stuff, but when it comes to holding Geisha, they have 5 players on the top floor, none on the site, and they barely drop a single body.
They get a little lucky with that plant. Eddie was very close to that, but even then, trying to work your way out of that site with the amount of verticality that they had working into their favor, I highly doubt Eddie even lives inside of the post plant anyways, and it'd still be an LG issue to try and figure out in that moment too. I think M80 are doing a great job of showing why the defense on this map is so strong. You can really just force the offense's hand, force them into these bad takes where you're able to maintain not only great positioning, but the majority of the time, great man advantage. You're able to get those big picks on nice angles and things like that. So just great play from M80 so far, really able to show off why this defense is so hard to break on Skyscraper.
I think it's also just sort of taking advantage of LG's inexperience in the game yesterday against Beast Coast when the defensive strategies were a bit more of what you'd expect or easy to solve if it was a full anchor on the site or one or two players just kind of roaming around the map without really a full setup to worry about. LG were usually able to find ground pretty successfully, whether it was just hitting the site or clearing those roamers. They had a really easy time. Here, M80 have done anything but be standard. They played Bedroom twice. It is their most played site as of this half, so already an off pick at the top. But then how they're attacking these? Full retakes, holding off angles, not even really touching the site. It's not a way LG are probably used to, and it's probably really hard to adapt when you're still trying to get a lot of these fundamentals down.
Well, not exactly the fundamentals being shown inside of this strategy here. We are going to have the OSA working her way in, something we haven't seen from Luminosity just yet. I think there is a case you can make for this being somewhat normal nowadays in Siege, as Kix is going to find a nice pick. They just keep it simple, stupid. Hey, walk at him in black stairs with an LMG, spray down the angle, see what happens, and Kix gets a kill in between Kino's shotgun. Maybe another shell inside after that pump goes off. Great timing there, but Eddie's going to go down. This is a big moment as that case is still on the floor too. Going to be able to pick him back up with the Adrenal Surge. This plant now being discovered inside of Karaoke. Citizen has to do something here. He takes the swing. He can't find the kill. It's going to be traded back though, as M80 have somehow, some way gotten into a 3 versus 3.
Good effort too, because with Eddie on low HP, this might just be winnable. They still have to worry about the Karaoke repel, but they've got no explosives to deal with that OSA shield. So it's the players around it that are going to be the priority for M80 to find. But on that repel, Hat's able to make it a 3v2. Now the retake is all but impossible. The Ash gone completely on red on black stairs. Noodle's able to trade it out. That gunfight on the repel needs to be won. Maybe find Eddie in the corner, but Hat even repels in just to be safe. Just to make sure they close out that 2v1. It's a very difficult half, and maybe 2 attacks will be enough for LG, but it's still undeniably a very strong start for M80.
Yeah, I love how they didn't overcomplicate things there. You know, they get that minimal pressure on the top of black stairs with OSA. They send 2 in the bottom of black with Finka and an LMG. Rock the mute, Kino gets taken down, and immediately try and transition that into a plant with that player positioned on the Karaoke window for the cut. The one just rock star play there, minus that pick on, black stairs, was their ability to pick up OSA without anybody having to enter Karaoke there, Carter. The Adrenal Surge really saving that situation and making that, whole problem that Luminosity had in front of them, something that could have been, the kind of the stick in the axles there, or stick in the spokes rather. But Luminosity were able to get around that, all because of that good utility usage, all because that operator was in their lineup. Get that plant off successfully, and M80, although some nice picks, not really able to fight back due to the positions that Luminosity had adopted in.
It is important to, again, reemphasize that Adrenal Surge, though, because if Finka's not played, that diffuser is stuck inside a site with not a whole lot of great options to retake it. 2 very close attacking wins for LG to get this 2-4 half in the first place, but will that be the difference maker? One thing that might, whether maybe affect the odds, Spoit at 11 in kills so far is basically at the total he's achieved in each of the individual previous games, only 6 rounds in. And now he's on Deimos, likely intended to hunt down one maybe solo roamer for LG, and in my mind, public enemy number 1 has got to be this Solus.
100%. Every single time that you load into the game, she reminds you that she is public enemy number 1, especially in prep phase, right? You're just trying to drone around, get your drone in a nice little position. She just walks in, one taps it with an SMG-11. Everybody's been there. And Most definitely do not want to try and deal with that. So, be a call out here from Citizen 2. To get some extra info on top of the already info stacked lineup that they have. And Doe could be a fantastic option across the board. Has that great EBR, great secondary options for her utility pieces too, and the logic bombs. What is there to argue about that op? Noodle is going to work his way down low. Love the buck here. Able to try and strip things away, potentially for Geisha too, if there's a good read on Hat. We'll just have to see how this unfolds.
We'll have to see, but with that skeleton key, the amount of pressure you can apply from below that, even if it's maybe with 45, 30 seconds left, if it's in combination with that execute utility, those Bs for Cameraman and the Candelas for Kino, both being cooked right now, could cause heavy disruption no matter where this ends up being. See the angle created, looking into the Geisha doorway, execute coming out. It's meant to cut off the rotation for anybody in Geisha to try to stop Kino from putting this diffuser on the floor. He's made his way through the reinforcement because they've read top black is completely reinforced. So all they have to worry about is the doorway into Karaoke and the rotate from Geisha. Noodle's able to get the first pick. They do find that Solus, and Spoit has all three of his trackers left. So if there's anybody going for the retake, he can get direct intel on that and relay it to the rest of his team. Even if Kino can't see it, that intel is a very real reality. And as he starts to put this diffuser on the floor, I mean, Sam, we might not even get there as it's a 5v3.
Well, they know Kino's in this corner now, so they're going to try and force the plant down or at least bait it. Kino gets another one off of that swing down into the 1 versus 5, and it's going to be a flawless round for M80. I genuinely am just taken aback. I was so frazzled as to the scenario that was in front of us. Not only does Kiki get there very early inside of that strategy, which honestly perfectly fine. LG had no idea as to what the scenario was. All those Candelas actually mask things perfectly for him. And he just waits patiently, doesn't overexert himself, doesn't try and swing over for Geisha. Instead, he waits for M80 to show up to the door so he can try and expose LG himself. And I really like that, especially with the baits. Even with M80 at the top of Black Stairs, Carter, he's still baiting that planner to try and get Luminosity to step forward. He gets 2 kills off the back of, those moves. And the rest of M80 really just able to gun him down. As you said, M80 not really even needing to put that case down, just really using it as kind of a distraction method, something to get Luminosity to work their way out of the weeds.
And honestly, with how nice of a call and execution that was for M80, I'm almost at the point where I'm starting to, I might call it a game. I mean, not to say that, LG don't have the skill to bring back this half. They certainly do individually. But that indicates for these attacks, M80 have a clear game plan. But more importantly, when they see things in round that can either make their game plan work or necessitate a change to something more optimal, they're able to make that call and execute it flawlessly. Now, right here, I will say, you watched the game yesterday, the Kino Blitz was not very successful. And, that crash felt personal with the timing on that.
Oh, man. Well, we're going to award that one to Kiki. He gets it for the blitz pick. Good job, Key. There you go, right there.
All right.
He's got to claim those.
Right past
Yeah, it's very unfortunate for Eddie. But in case y'all are a little bit newer to Rainbow Six Esports, sadly we cannot reset this. So that is actually actively going to be a pick for M80. Effectively, obviously no one's going to get that stat line-wise, but Luminosity will definitely feel that, if this does end up being penultimate point for M80.
That's just really unlucky. And even if I could set up, talk about, the blitz wasn't great in the Oregon game yesterday, they need to get all this control. I mean, he's back very quickly, thankfully, so Eddie can at least have an impact by watching the default cameras, which, to be fair, are likely still bountiful, as M80 haven't really entered the building anywhere yet. Will still be a 4v5, and what LG do have going for them is the existing setup. They have these Banshees, so a fast play is a little bit difficult. They have the mirror windows, so anybody flooding in will need to worry about those and avail themselves to those angles. So there are still good points for LG. It's just a matter of M80, all they have to do is trade the man count down, and they get a win without having to do anything.
Uh-oh. Silent? He misses the blitz. He was in behind the panel for Geisha, but like ships in the night, they basically pass right by each other. At least one of the ships shoots a cannon at the other. This boy's gonna be able to take down Wi-Fi. Somehow, some way, Luminosity, what seemed like a gifted pick initially, actually the shoe on the other foot, and M80 barrel ahead, Hat able to take down one, but Spoit Great recognition on the bar. He'll be able to at least knock it down an extra peg. Luminosity with only Hat remaining now in a 1 versus 3. He's been delegated to this corner. We'll at least find one over inside of Dragon. Those one has to be playing the office side, but it should be 2 more. It's a quad. It could be an ace for Hat now. Back and forth we go. Nitro Cell still in hand too. Oh man. I'm sweating, and Hat with a shot. An ace here up against M80. And what a moment for Luminosity. They lose a player due to a DC early in the round. But Hat's like, hey, no worries, no problem. I'll put the team on my back. And he carries them at least 1 round deeper into Skyscraper here up against M80.
Okay. I don't really know what to say about that. I mean, you could even see the reaction on Hat's face. He's like, did that just happen? Did we have a player crash? I go down 1-4, and we've won that round? I mean, everything I said about M80's karaoke T attack is still true. And on that particular attack, they have the blitz to apply pressure from T and karaoke side, and pressure them from one side, exploit Citizen, flood in on the other, basically sandwich the site in the middle. Because of the man advantage they have, it could very easily work out, and it does. But they end up giving Hat 1v1s. It's actually a very messy end round with no intel on his position, which is fine, but M80 don't reset. They don't take the time to either find that intel, try to get the diffuser down, or make any adjustments. They just swing him 1 by 1 by 1. There's still an element of sloppiness to this roster if that round is evidence of anything. So M80 still have the consistency based on the first attack we saw to finish this. But man, that's often a round where in hindsight, you're like, the game changed. The game completely changed hands there.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, it's a mentality that we see from the greatest of heights to the lowest of lows. You know, I mean, I'm sure your rank stack, Carter, has had that feeding frenzy moment where you're just like, oh, we're just gonna kill the guy, and everyone dies. It's just one after another, and it's always so great because especially when you're inside of the first 2 deaths, right, and you just stare at the thing that says 1 versus 3. There's that Green Goblin mask moment where it's just talking to you. It's like, you know, you're gonna lose this round, right? You know the round's over now, right? And somehow, some way, everybody just costs. Unfortunate moment there for M80. But again, happens to the best of us. You just need to mentally reset here. That's what they're trying to go for. Another EMP in, but the wall's been frozen, and I think Wi-Fi is going to continue to do this here too. So this wall might be stuck for quite some time.
He's got one more Zoto canister left, and once that's gone, you have to hope the electrification might be placed on the wall afterwards, or will be reactivated after the EMP can do the job. Final Zoto goes out. Noodle a bit late into this position, not able to find the 2 brow down below, but then again, Wi-Fi's also not doing it from inside of Geisha. He's inside of Drum itself throwing those Zoto canisters, so a bit difficult of a find for Noodle. You still have a similar possible execute. You have this Deimos, you have this Ying from Kino, and you see Noodle getting into that same position. He spotted the Warden, but this time, Hat is ready for it. He puts Noodle down to 50 HP, now has actually worked his way a little bit past the holes made in the double door. I think LG are wise to M80's tricks now.
Great patience play here. And aggressive at the proper moments, just trying to force M80 to respect the scenario laid out in front of them. Noodle not able to garner that kill that he wanted so desperately inside of Geisha, and Spoit is all the way in Narnia right now, so he can't even capitalize off the back of the info that he was gathering. He might be able to call it to his teammates, but it's not exactly as accurate as Amos playing off it himself. And now Noodle, oh, he's gonna lose out!
Oh,
he had the
no.
skeleton key in hand, and Hat's ready!
Oh, Sam.
This is what Luminosity was looking for. Just trying to play right on the perimeter, trying to play right on the limit. They'll find Cameraman too, and Hat. He's been a demon in these last 2 rounds. This is something that you don't want for M80's sake. As, oh my, LG are getting away with way too much. They're starting to feel themselves. The Citizen will at least be able to stop the bleeding for a moment, but with 15 seconds, you guys are practically bleeding to death. It's down to 1, it's down to none. Luminosity. They found a will, they found a way to start getting these rounds against M80.
Attack timeout incoming, I assume. Pause button for M80 has to happen at this point. Right? I mean, not only do you need to slow it down, just in terms of, I imagine, the racing hearts and thoughts of M80, but I mean, I was gonna try and make a pun about like how they need to slow down the pace of that round, but really the round nothing happened. Like they got to the same spot they did before. They opened up the skeleton keyholes from below, right, to cut off the rotation through Geisha. Then you have, of course, the Deimos that we still see, trying to track some of those defenders. We still have Kino with the diffuser on that Ying on the karaoke rappel, and there's no follow-up. Why? Because LG are ready for it this time. We know the Wardens see the buck down below. He's like, guys, they're going for the same thing. And because he's able to get past it, he could theoretically get the trade on Kino and get in the position to take him down on that reinforcement. So the execute M80 are setting up for that looked so good, they can't do it. And they don't rotate. They don't pivot. They just try to flood, and LG, specifically Hat, cut them down every single time. And now there's no match point. It's not a one and done for M80. We don't even really have a pause. But if LG win barbecue, that pause needs to happen after this round.
Kind of a flat tire moment there for from M80. Get up onto the expressway, but not able to actually make it to their destination. And it really just comes back to what we saw there from Hat, as you said, highlighted in your little conversation point there. Yeah, what else are you really going to do once that obstacle hits? With M80, what we'd really like to see is them hitting that pivot, hitting a change and trying to find something else in order to take over that top floor, but that's not what we see. Instead, M80 try and stick to what the situation was previously, trying to stick to their game plan, and definitely not the best case scenario for them at the end of the day. But about 50 seconds into round 10, M80 trying to work their way into Skyscraper yet again here. And this time, Brava drones and plugs will attempt to try and snatch up some utility. Won't find too much, find some info on some players over near the front desk.
Yeah, maybe some stuff to find, some default cameras, some electronics, but really it's now these entrenched players for LG. Wi-Fi might have an angle. If the Maverick decides to hop into the terrace window, he's at least called it out. The rest of LG now aware of it. There is another player there, as we can see. Oh, he spots him, but he doesn't even get a single bit of damage. I thought he at least would get a couple there, Sam, but nothing for his troubles. He at least gets the info, I suppose.
Yeah, you got to feel for Wi-Fi today. It's just not clicking together, and it hasn't been because of his plays, but then positioned himself well. Just the shots have not lined up for him. Stars most definitely not aligning. Cameraman, speaking of, missile angle for himself. Knows one's playing inside of Geisha, but Miss Solis going to give up the goods. Silent in behind that box. No, looking for the window hop here. Hat's going to get one onto Citizen. It's now down to a 2 versus 5. And M80 are trying to stop Luminosity from tying this up. Cameraman will find one, practically a hip fire, I'd say, onto Hat, but nevertheless, a kill at the end of the day. And oh my, Cameraman, what is that? A snake in the grass will take down Eddie. Kano trying to work his way around this broken mirror. Silent with the Assassin's Creed angle. Looking for their best way back into this round. The case will be dropped. Looking to see if somebody wants to try and stop that plant. Remember, Silent does have that Solus. That's what they're trying to do right there by dropping that case on the ground. Silent will be able to see it, but he's not utilizing that utility right now. Cameraman's going to work his way back up the stairwell. Wi-Fi on the sound cue. Won't be able to find much, and Silent will take down Kino. 10 seconds remain, but it's not going to matter. Luminosity, they tie things up with M80.
I can't believe we're here. I actually can't believe this is happening right now. I'm gonna be 100% honest with you.
What is that? What is that for?
What the hell? He had a face cam. I just want to make that clear. Like his face cam was working earlier. What? He just changed it? What was that? No, listen, sometimes like maybe a cam doesn't get updated and we have one from like an old Playday or something, but his face cam was working. He just put that up?
Yeah, I know. There's no way. my feeling when.
I mean, he's only like, guys, you're about to choke the 5v2. I can't be on camera right now.
Oh my goodness gracious. It has to lock in. That's his lock-in photo right there. He just has that printed out and just staring at him over his desk. Oh my goodness gracious. All right, we're back in after that camaraderie. I genuinely am just at a loss for words. Not only at the fact that it's now 5-5, because M80 were putting on such a show, not only today, but yesterday. as well, as they're able to get that game off of the Sonics. But now, Luminosity, there is a world where they not only win this, but they win this in
Sam,
regulation.
not
Carter.
just a world. It's happening. I think it's happening. Like, I'm gonna.
Weren't you earlier saying, I feel like this, I'm not trying to call it, but this game feels over?
No,
Wasn't that you?
And tell me, at 5-2, when you've seen M80 just execute an attack flawlessly, that you're not also going to be like, I think this game might be over. When the next round happens, and the only way LG deny match point is from an ace clutch from Hat, tell me you're not like, yeah, this might be over. But once that ace clutch happens, once he gets that last kill, and suddenly we're not at 5-2, we're not at 5-3, we're at 5-5, yeah, I'm switching my vote. Yeah, I'm riding the wave. I think the comeback happens.
There's a lot of heart in that. Now, I will say, you're still a turncoat. I mean, you can say whatever
I don't
you
care.
want. It doesn't matter.
I don't care.
But you are right. I will say that. It does feel like there is something in the air right now. And I don't know if M80 have the gall to be able to stop it. I will say this. They're at least staying true to themselves. They're going to work the blitz back in. You can say the same about Luminosity. You can say the same about Eddie.
All right, well, now we're trying.
But that soft destruction, it's not made well enough. Cameraman has a perfect angle. Eddie can't even see the man that's hanging outside like Spider-Man on the edge of the building here.
Okay, like, and right as I'm trying to hype up the comeback, Eddie's just standing in front of a soft geisha wall and has fallen. That is unfortunate to say the least. Opening pick going the way for M80. Fortunate if you are M80, who have been struggling to get a lot of these openings this half, whether in the round, in the early game, in the late game, ever since that exhibition round. Even though it's only been a couple, LG have still managed to get those opening picks. So as the utility goes out, Spoit and Kino, the blitz in the ash, looking to apply a whole lot of pressure to this terrace position. Will instead reset for just a little bit, find a bit more intel.
Got plenty of time to do it, too. And why not? Luminosity have this setup built towards Shrine as well as I'm sure Terrace. Really want to make sure that Kino's well informed on these positions as he works his way forward. He'll get the doors for him. He'll get the camera. Just want to make sure that the assistance is there. Can't let Kino fly blindly or not really have the assistance. Wi-Fi's going to get tagged up just a tad bit. I think that was over towards the Terrace side. Yes, indeed. Noodle spamming through that wall. Wi-Fi actually all the way over in drag and still not able to find too much this game. This might be his moment here. Works his way forward. Has to make sure to check his corners. Otherwise, Wi-Fi don't like will eat him for lunch.
Wi-Fi still has backup though. He's got kicks behind this shield. Holding down Dragon could be very easy. Hat's able to fight back. 15 kills right now for Hat. 5 of them, of course, coming from one round. So a third of that is a bit of an outlier in terms of the overall trend, but it's undeniable since then the impact he has had, not just with that kill onto Cameraman, but now these two toxic canisters stalling out this M80 push. It is heavily telegraphed. They know it is coming from this Dragon side, but they check the corner. Hat's able to get a trade. They cut down the blitz. They follow it up with more! Kick swings out behind the shield. 1v3 for Noodle. He's hitting the backstab, but he hits it right into a Gershmot. 6-5 for LG. 4 rounds in a row. M80 falling apart round by round.
Luminosity are eyes wide open at the current moment. They are seen in 3D. Everything is going so swimmingly. Everything from these opening engagements down to the execution. Kicks with a fantastic play. The assistance there on the blitz. And then a beautiful 2K off of the temple hop. Luminosity have gathered the lead for the very first time here on Skyscraper. And they have the ability to not only go up against one of the best teams right now in the NAL, one of the top scorers right now in the NAL too, is they're currently sitting with the 3rd best round differential. Luminosity, so far, it's been a decent start to the season, you could say. I mean, the very first day, they lose 7-3 to SSG. The next day, kind of a bounce back for them. They played Beast Coast. Beast Coast hasn't looked too hot to trot just yet, but, I mean, it is the beginning of the stage. So 7-4 there, but then M80, the team that, when you're looking at this on paper, you're like, oh, Luminosity, kind of a crappy schedule for them. They got to bounce back and play against one of the teams that looks like they're going to be shooting for that top slot inside of the league. And instead, there's now a huge chance for them to have this upset.
Well, and I think part of it is honestly, if you look at that M80 SQ game yesterday, a lot of those attacks or openings M80 were able to achieve were from SQ getting a bit antsy, maybe taking gunfights they shouldn't, taking risks they shouldn't. And that first M80 attack, that didn't happen. They made their own opportunities. And so I thought, okay, maybe the problem's solved. But as these rounds have gone on, M80 are reverting to that playstyle, reverting to needing LG to give them these openings. But here, 2 rounds in a row, even though they lost it previously, LG have been more than happy to provide it. They've been able to fight back from this before.
Luminosity really wanted to dedicate themselves to this extension. Wi-Fi's going to take a little bit of heat as M80 begin to coil around this top floor. Noodle trying to add that extra layer with the skeleton key. You can see what the mainline strategy is for Luminosity. Delay. Try and make this timer eat at M80. Force them into a poor execution. Maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed for them, you get that pick and are able to equalize. And there it is. Wi-Fi playing the angles back towards Noodle. He'll find him, more than likely trying to traverse down low. Ends up getting that big kill. Citizen working his way in behind this main line here too, but probably not too many options for him to try and find that big flank just yet.
Okay, look at the rotation. M80 moving over to the karaoke side. Mentioned Citizen on this flank. He's got the drone ahead of him on Black Stairs now, so any intel gathered by M80 can be relayed to him. They know the Warden's in Geisha. This is, right now, the biggest impediment for M80. I have to say I'm a little bit worried because they're going back to this karaoke plant strategy that Hat is aware of, that Hat had an answer for, playing this Geisha position previously. So as the Bees go in, they're forced to fall out a little bit. But I'm just sitting here thinking, LG know this. There's still 2 players off the site. M80 are hoping they can just get ahead of these remaining defenders, smoke this off, but again, Hat's on the Warden too. They need to firebolt this, which Kino has equipped. But can they force him back? Can they make this work? Stalling out so heavily, finally they send it in. Kino will likely go in on the rappel and Hat in a quadruple crossfire, it seems. But Wi-Fi still keeps it even. Kino goes the repellent, but that's the Warden down. It's instead Kicks. He's able to cut down Kino. Case is cold on the floor. In the 2v2, can Citizen cut him off? Can he find the opening? Spoiled on the opposite side of the hallway. A key change as the holes are opened up in the floor. There was no reinforcement. Safe for Kino to play behind. But if Wi-Fi just holds on, the comeback is possible. The underdogs prevail. 2-5 to 7-5 for the unlikely winners of the first match of the day.
Carter, I don't know if you're a big fan of basketball, but March Madness has joined us here on the NAL stage. This is unprecedented. I definitely did not see this coming when we sat down. M80, across these last 2 playdays, I think they've honestly looked really, really solid. But Skyscraper, not the answer up against Luminosity. And if anything, I think Luminosity have kind of found themselves in this game. Because here's the thing, Lynx. That wasn't just Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi coming into this game, right? Their top performer for Luminosity, he was barely around today, not really showing up the way that he was previously, right? It's the rest of the team. It's players like Hat. It's players like Pix that are making these moments happen. Luminosity with a huge win here up against M80.
And honestly, what really makes that right there, what really solidifies it to me, you're talking about, big performances, teams improving, that small adjustment. Wall reinforced before, beat holes in front of the karaoke window, and M80's adaptation that they committed to with over half the round to go, completely nullified. LG, a team to watch now with that huge comeback in regulation. I imagine the desk will have a lot to say about it right after this.
Nothing like starting to play day with a little itty-bitty upset. Nobody on the desk had faith Luminosity would be able to beat M80 in our first match of the day, yet it happened. A huge deficit for M80 At the beginning of the game, when they had LG on the ropes, it was a 4-1 deficit at the very start. Suddenly, everyone comes roaring back, and it happened on the backs of Hat, and the rest of the team finally showed up at the very end. Really, really good masterclass on Skyscraper from LG.
Yeah, when they swapped sides and after Hat won that 1v1, he was already doing really well, but that powered up and gave him like the confidence, gave his team the confidence, and they were running away with it after that.
Oh, it's no secret that everything changed on round number 8 when Hat got that ace. He had absolutely no business winning that round, but when he did, it was like the complete map flipped on its head. At that point, Luminosity just got on a roll, and they never stopped.
M80 had a really good start with retaking positions, playing off of information. They knew what they needed to get. Everybody would get into a position, set up, wait, set the trap, and then once LG tried to go for an execute or force those executes, M80 was there for the retake. They were there for the executes, and it didn't work out. And that's where Luminosity understood, okay, we can't be playing so far back. We need to start standing on the positions that we're holding and fighting M80 at the source, at the root, entering the map, fighting for those key positions. And once they started doing that, obviously the defenses were succeeding for LG, and M80 just wasn't able to get into the map, get into positions to set up at all.
M80 also did a fantastic job at denying Luminosity that same successful entry game that we hyped them up for coming into this matchup. We said their entry, especially on the attack, has been fantastic. They're doing such a good job at taking space, maneuvering around the map. M80, again, first half, shut that down.
4-2 overall for LG. The fact that they won round 6 is a huge bonus, because if they don't do that, if we're on a 5-1 half deficit, M80 probably runs away with this thing just based on the momentum factor. But because they got that one at the very end of the first half that led into the one attack round, M80 won. And the reason that that's significant is every time they went upstairs, they were karaoke and T, it looked like the exact same attack every single time it was defended by LG. So when M80 go in, it works the one time and then stops working.
Yeah, it obviously had good roots. Kino being on the purple window or karaoke window, whatever you call it, him going to jump into the window. Obviously, they had Noodle downstairs being able to buck open and pretty much give them a little bit of more comfortability to get into this site for that plant. But after this first round where it actually worked out, the 2 rounds prior, you see here Noodle actually got killed through the floor by Hat. He was taken down through his pretty much, they were shutting him down so that they couldn't get control of Geisha.
Certainly there were a couple of changes in that last round compared to that first round that was successful, right? We saw Kino switch over to the Capitao instead of the Ying, but right there, where he gets shot through the smoke, I'm not sure if they had a bulletproof on that position, but it was Kixrow, fully blind through the smoke, who was able to take down Kino as he tried to get the diffuser down. If he doesn't land that shot, it's a very different outcome.
Yeah, I don't mind the mentality if at first you don't succeed, try again. But not only does Wi-Fi show up right at the very end there, when he had a really bad game up until the last round, if you try the same strategy over and over again, isn't that partially the definition of insanity?
Yeah, it is. After the first round, it worked mainly because Kino wasn't in. They didn't know Kino was inside purple. So
yeah,
he
sat there for like 50 seconds unchecked.
And he wasn't planning. He got 2 picks, and then after that, I understand you want to go back, try it again. Didn't work out. Third round, trying it again. It doesn't, it's not going to work a third time if you did it the first 2.
Yeah, but undisputably, the MVP of this matchup, Hat, came to play today.
Yes,
and it came at a moment where his teammate disconnected from the lobby. In that round, he ace clutches against Spoit to ensure that his team stays in it. But it was like Carter said, the whole energy of the lobby changed as soon as he hits this shot right there.
Oh my God, we went crazy in the green room when we saw that. But this was a round where I was like, all right, M80, they're trying to bring Kino on the blitz again. I was a little concerned coming into the round. Immediately, I got proven wrong. Kino came in and he just, with the help of the rest of the team behind him, smoked through that initial setup, but then Hat says absolutely not. He straight up denies it single-handedly after it looked like it had worked.
After that ace clutch, it brought the confidence for not just Hat, but the rest of Luminosity, especially with having somebody drop out of the server, knowing that you could get that round back. And after that moment was also the change. They started fighting for positions, fighting for karaoke, fighting for downstairs barbecue, and they weren't letting M80 get any position. They weren't letting them set up. And as soon as you deny M80 from setting up, there was no execute on M80's side.
Looks like old hat, and I don't mean that just for the English turn of phrase. I mean old hat from Beast Coast in stage 1 of 2023. Luminosity getting one of the biggest dubs they could have hoped to get. M80 looked like they were on a roll. They will have to suffer the full 3-point loss today, and LG with those 3 now suddenly shoots up the standings, at least for right now.
And you give credit to Spoit. He obviously put up a fantastic performance on the opposite side. Cameraman too. We're really seeing this team have certain areas where they continue to succeed in. But I did not expect this one to fall apart in the way that it did for M80. They were so strong at the start of this game. It looked like...
At the start.
At the start.
That's right.
It looked like a 5-1 half was inevitable. That didn't quite happen. 5-2 still happened. And then the comeback from Luminosity.
I'll say M80 looked like they were struggling with not having enough in their arsenal when it came to a map like Skyscraper. This is where everyone being put on the team so last minute definitely took a hit, because once they did what they wanted to do, once they did their new rushes or their new site hits, they ran out of options. They weren't changing anything up. There wasn't many sporadic plays, and Skyscraper is one of those maps where you can't do sporadic plays. You can't just walk up the staircases. It's very isolating, and Luminosity was waiting there. They knew that all they needed was 2 rounds. Once they got to defense, the rest was history.
I want to talk to Luminosity about how this week has been for them. We have Wi-Fi on the line. Dude, a phenomenal week for you guys. Congratulations on how everything has gone so far. You've been in Pro League for all of a couple weeks at this point, and you've gotten 2 big wins under your belt in 2 days. How are you feeling, man? Talk to me.
Pretty good. I mean, I don't know. I mean, me and Hat literally just got off work from a 95.
Oh, no way.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, we're a new team, so I mean, the game looked rough. I had a bad game, but you know, my teammates are insane, and you know, we got synergy, so something's working.
Tell me about that turnaround, Wi-Fi, because you guys looked like, I mean, you were down quite a bit, and then you had this absolute turnaround after Hat got that ace. Was it truly that moment that flipped things around for you guys, or did you have that defensive side cooked up from the word go?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like that kind of won us the game, but you know, I mean, we got a pretty good attack split for Skyscraper, because that map is super defender sided, so you know, we weren't too bummed out. You know, we lost our first defensive round, so obviously we had to adapt, and then we're gonna do that, and then Eddie lagged out, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then Hat literally just went crazy sicko mode for some reason. So I mean, yeah, it was, after that round, it was literally like a fever dream, because we were literally just calling like random stuff, and like, because if you look back through it, we look so messy because we're literally making stuff up on the fly.
Nice.
So good honesty. I appreciate that.
I mean, it looked like you guys were. It looked like you guys were having fun. Each player cam, each round that you guys won, you were having fun the whole time. And I was gonna ask you about if it felt like an uphill battle at that half, but clearly you weren't worried about it. So my next question would be, what did it feel like, an uphill battle? Like you guys were stressed out playing against M80, especially after losing week 1 to a tough team, beating a weaker Beast Coast, and then going up against M80 that looked very solid. Were you guys worried going into the matchup?
No, I don't think so, to be honest. I think we're always gonna have fun in our games, and you know, I don't know. I think we have the potential to like be one of the best teams in NA. You know, we have the gun skill, and we're always gonna come in the match thinking we're gonna win. So I mean, I don't know. We're here to shoot and kill people. So watch out.
Working out for you so far, dude. Congratulations on getting 2 dubs this week, especially after just getting off the 9 to 5. Go relax, brother. You've earned it. We'll see you next week. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Good stuff from Wi-Fi and the crew, especially in his case for having a bit of an off game. He showed up in that last round, closes that sucker out when it matters. LG, you're having a really good time right now, it looks like.
You just got off a shift and started putting in work. I mean,
yeah,
not necessarily.
The grind never stops for LG.
Not necessarily Wi-Fi putting in work. He said himself he had a rough game, but he was putting in work on the back end, leading his team.
And he recovered it in the last round. He gave us a couple little flashy plays. I think he had a triple in the end to really make it happen. So a good way to cap off an otherwise fantastic performance from his team as a whole.
Well, we start the day off with an upset, but I don't really know if there's an upset that can happen for Game 2 because it's 2 powerhouse teams and one of the best legacies in NAL history. Sonics and Space Station coming up after the break.